Welcome back to the SNS Grills channel. I'm Greg from Ballistic BBQ, and on today's video I'm going to be showing you how to cook up a sirloin roast on the slow and sear kettle grill. Let's get going. Right now, as we all know, meat prices are very high. This can bring some stress into the household, especially when you're planning a cook for a large gathering, family get together. So I decided that I'm going to use a less expensive cut, and we're going to turn this into a centerpiece, just like the ever popular prime rib roast. For this cook, I'm using a sirloin roast. A couple other great options would be eye of round or a cut that is sold and marketed as London broil. That along with a sirloin, great options as long as they're cooked correctly and served correctly. So this is that sirloin roast that I'm going to be cooking up. This is a little over 6 pounds, and last night I did a dry brine. What I did was I seasoned this with kosher salt. I use about as much salt as I would season this if I weren't going to be dry brining it overnight, but it boils down to about a half a teaspoon per pound. Put it on a rack and then in my refrigerator overnight uncovered. And what happens is that salt brings moisture out of the meat and dissolves, and then the meat brings that dissolved salt and moisture and water back into the meat, and you end up with a perfectly salted, perfectly seasoned meat. What we're going to do now is add a little bit more flavor, and I'm going to be using the Not Just for Beef rub, and this has no salt. If you're going to do that dry brine and you're going to season it with a rub, you want to make sure the rub does not have any salt, or else you'll end up with oversalted meat. Now, as you can see, this meat's been trimmed, so all the excess fat and silver skin has been removed. And this meat's pretty sticky, but if it were more on the dry side, I'd probably add just a little bit of a binder, like maybe a few drops of olive oil or some type of oil. There we go, that looks pretty good. Now let me show you the setup we're going with on the kettle. I have here 15 briquettes, and as you can see, they're lit and they're well established. I'm going to add about 2/3 full of the slow and sear here. More briquettes. To the charcoal, I'm going to add a couple chunks of hickory. Get a little smoke on the scene here. Get that temperature gauge to monitor the kettle temp. There. Lid over the indirect side where the meat's going to go. And we'll close this down by about 2/3. It's about 1/3 of the way open. Bottom damper fully closed. Smoke hole open about 1/3 of the way. Now I'm just going to monitor the thermometer till the kettle hits 225 degrees Fahrenheit, and then we'll put the meat on. Okay, in a short time, we have hit that 225 degree Fahrenheit mark. I did open up that smoke hole just a little bit more. It kind of locked in on around 215 or so. So I opened it up, and now we're up to 225, rolling stable. Let's get this meat on the cooker. Get it on that indirect side away from the heat. We want this probe in the thickest part of this roast, which is basically right here, and I want it in the dead center. So what I'm going to do is lay this on top of the roast here, use my thumb as a gauge, and go in the dead center of the side of the roast. Just insert it to my thumb. We're good. Get that lid back on again with the vent over the meat. Now all we do is wait. We're going to monitor the temperature, and I'm going to pull this roast once the internal temperature reaches 127 degrees Fahrenheit. In the meantime, I'm going to show you how to make a really good and very easy sauce for this roast. Kicking it off with some sour cream. To the sour cream, I'm adding some mayo. We're going to add some horseradish. Now this horseradish, I will have a recipe down below that has all the amounts, but horseradish is something that you probably want to add to taste. So start on the low side and then bring up the heat as you like it, or as your guests like it. Now I'm going to add some English style hot mustard. And I'm going to say the same thing about this as I said with the horseradish, to taste. Because again, this stuff has a kick. Going to add a little fresh ground black pepper. Now I'm going to mix it. We're not done with the ingredients though. Now we're adding a little bit of unsalted beef broth, and this is to texture. So I want it just a little looser than it is now. I'm just going to add a little bit of this to loosen it up, and it will add a little bit more of a kind of a savory flavor to this sauce. So again, you don't want it too watery, so it's just a little bit. There we go. You can see this is the texture I wanted. You could make it looser than that or have it a little stiffer than that. Now, as always, we need to taste this. This is good. I love horseradish. I love it hot. This isn't too hot. My wife doesn't like it too hot. This is perfect, I think, for a gathering. It will kind of reach everyone's tastes. And if you did have somebody like me at the table that needs that heat, you could have a little separate container of the prepared horseradish that they can add to it to pump it up the heat a little bit more. But I think this is perfect. The other thing you might want to taste for is salt. I don't think this needs any salt, but if you feel that it does, add a little bit, stir it, let it set, and then taste it again. The cooker's running great. Right now it's 226, running pretty stable. I'll see you when it's time to sear. So we've been at this cook now just a little over 2.5 hours. Cook's been going great. Kettle's been running right between 225 and 230. Very happy with that. Wait until you see this piece of meat. Tell me that's not beautiful. Just gorgeous, gorgeous color. So next thing we're going to do is I'm going to stir up these coals. I'm going to allow those unlit briquettes to light. Then we're going to give this roast a nice quick sear. Just give it a little bit more of that grilled flavor. All right, so for good measure, I pulled the roast off of the grate and I added just a few more briquettes to that slow and sear. I just wanted a little bit more of an even layer of briquettes, a little bit more heat. It's ready to go now. And I'm holding it over the heat for about 40 seconds before I flip it. And there we go, we are done. And that's exactly what I was looking for. A little bit of color, a little bit more of that grilled flavor, a little bit of char. So I'm gonna let this rest. We're gonna slice it up, give you guys a try. Okay, this roast is all rested. Final temp ended up being about 131, 132. We're ready to slice this thing. 99% sure the grains are running this way. I wanna cut across the grain. For some reason you ever screw that up, make that first cut, turn it around and fix your mistake. You don't want to cut with the grain on something like this. So let's see what we have here. Nice, beautiful color, beautiful smoke ring, and that's the first slice. It's only going to get better. Now on a cut like this, a cut like the eye of round, thin slices are key. You want to have the slices very thin. Oh, that is beautiful. Oh. Look at that. It's pouring juice, perfect color. It smells really good. My son was saying, man, it smells like barbecue. Look at that. Oh, sirloin has a great flavor. So I have some of my sauce, a little personal serving size here, and I'm going to give it a try. Sauce is really good. Wow, look at the smoke ring on this too. You can see that smoke ring. Doesn't really need the sauce. So I hope this video inspires you to try something new and give your wallet a break when you're planning your next feast. If you're not subscribed to the SNS Grills channel, please do make sure you hit the notification bell, thumb up the video if you like it. Remember, 2 zones are better than 1. I'll see you the next time around. Cheers.